Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Mgowo. It's Misha.
Snesipo.
And yeah, another episode, another great time. We have a really dope guest here with us. We're going to let him introduce himself because I don't think we're going to do him justice. But you guys know him. If you don't, catch up. I don't know.
That's a lot of pressure. You started that with a lot of shaming.
I know shaming is not a good tool, but guys, you know what I mean? Like, get with the winning team. Introduce yourself, please.
Cool. My name is Mashudu. Wow. Got this. That's not a good start.
No, it's all right. The camera just fell for those who are listening to the audio only.
So my name is Mashudu, and I'm an entrepreneur, creator. Really passionate about building platforms to help as many people as possible get access to tools, resources to build or create the things that they believe in.
Dope. So he, amongst the many other things that he has like a podcast platform. He has a podcast himself. It's two of them. Is it two of them or is it one? I feel like you got 5,000.
Do I count the ones that I don't do anymore?
Okay, wait. How many podcasts have you had?
Actually, yes.
I'd say about 5 or 6.
Wow.
And how many are still active?
2.
Wow.
Okay. And the other, I'm going to break the format here. I'm going to break the format here. I want the story of why the other 3 are no longer active.
Actually.
Okay, cool. So I think when I was starting out, right, like the thing that you do is just, so I'm very like, I've worked with startups and like I have that startup mentality of just like, if I want to do something, I'm just going to test it and try and see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
I think I have about 3 podcasts that were on Anchor, right? So when I started out, I started on Anchor because I didn't know how to, use professional microphones and edit and do this and do that. So I started on Anchor and literally just recording on my phone every day. So I did a thing that was called Mash Daily or something like that, where I was just doing daily updates of being an entrepreneur and like what it feels like. Now I realized that you don't have as many interesting days.
Yeah. It's like updated the spreadsheet.
It's not
chased an invoice.
Exactly. Like you don't have as interesting a life as you think you do to do like a daily thing. So I admire people that do like daily vlogs.
Yeah.
The Instagram is a daily just
I
like
don't
rolling.
Understand that. Yeah.
So that was the first one, and then there was another one that was just for me to try and interview entrepreneurs, and that was my first test, which was on Anchor, and I was recording people through my phone still, and it's okay the first 2 times because it's like super interesting, and then the third time you're like, this sounds terrible.
These guys have all used the same thing. Or like, what's terrible? The info from the entrepreneurs or the quality of your phone?
Just the quality of the phone.
Oh, okay.
Also the experience when you're interviewing someone, right?
Yeah.
You want to create a really good and safe environment where they feel like, oh, I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
And I'm like open about what's happening with me. But when you have a phone in someone's face, it feels very like reportery. And it's like weird. And then the third one is something that I was doing like as a secret project. It was a podcast that I did every week for about 3 months. Just for myself. I never shared the link. It was mainly about just like learning how to speak to a microphone. Just like
that's
processing my own confidence and voice and relaying messages and like trying to be intentional about where I, raise my voice or lower it or try and like use it in different ways.
Get you.
So those are the ones that like fell away. So one was just really just to test things out. And the other 2 that are actually running, those are the ones that are doing pretty okay.
All right, cool. So I think what everyone probably wants to know, we'll make this a beginner's guide to podcasting.
Yeah, essentially.
What everyone always wants to know, and we never have the answer because we've never had to do this part of it, is how much did it cost for you to start your professional podcast? And is it like, what's the bare minimum that one needs in order to start and get their podcast out there?
Yeah, I think before we get there, just to give you guys context, essentially what we wanted to do with this episode and why we have Mashudu over is we've gotten a lot of questions from people like, oh, yeah, I want to start a podcast. How do you do it? And I think we're the worst people to ask because
we know nothing. We are Jon Snow.
First of all, we know nothing. Second of all, we really came into this solely as a labor of love, right? Like at no point did we, and I'm not saying that other people don't do that, or he definitely did it as a labor of love, but I think he also looked at it from an entrepreneurial aspect. I only recognized us as entrepreneurs like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So, so you understand that we just don't have that range. So we wanted to have him over because I think he definitely has the range. From a labor of love perspective, that's where we all meet up. But from a commercial point of view, from like a realistic point of view, where it's like we're spending
too fluffy.
because we're not spending anything. Menzi had the equipment, so we were like, "Yo, let's do this," you know. So yeah, Snapper's question.
My question, I'll repeat the question, was how much do you need to start a podcast? And this is for somebody who, because we all understand that you can actually do it for free on your phone.
Yep.
And everything will be fine. But this is the question for people who actually want to have a podcast that sounds professional and makes, you remember what you were saying about having the good experience while recording. Yeah. Where do you start, and how much do you need?
Cool. So I'll just like go through the entire journey from
Sure.
Yeah. So the first one, the phone thing, right? So when I was using the phone, I think the technology was still like super early. So it was like 3-4 years ago. Anchor, which is the platform for recording, so you can record, edit, and publish on there, right? So
dope.
That's free completely, right? And they will never charge you for it because they got bought by Spotify for like 100 million or something like that. And because of that, Spotify looks at them as just the thing that's going to make podcasts more accessible. So literally anyone can start a podcast with this, right? So you literally just...
It's literally an app.
Yeah.
Download it on your phone.
And start. So just first off, it's your phone, right? And if you have a decent phone, like a really good phone, so say an iPhone or a Samsung in a higher price range, the audio quality is actually really good.
All right.
With the microphone. So for example, when I was trying to get better, I would stack pillows just around me. So this way, that way, and the microphone would be here, and literally just speak into that. The next level is buying like a microphone that goes straight into your phone.
Okay.
So that's around 1.2. You can get them for like 600 now.
Like Take a Lot
is the best option because they usually have the best prices as well. So that's the first step, right? So that one is still recording on Anchor or something like that, and you're literally just recording on your phone, but there's a microphone, which makes it better. The next step is like a USB microphone, right? So that's literally just a microphone that plugs into your laptop, and then you record on something like a Audacity or GarageBand. Okay. So GarageBand is free with every Mac. Audacity is free. You can get it online. And then you're just paying that 1.3. But also now you have the challenge or the problem that you need to learn how to edit, right? So now you need to learn how to edit in Audacity or GarageBand. You can go to the University of YouTube for this, right? Okay. And literally just 5 videos max, and you should be fine to do it like at a decent level. So even me, the ability to edit or whatever is still like terrible.
I remember like when we still had a YouTube channel, I'd edit on...
Was it Premiere?
No, the other one.
The Adobe one?
The Apple one. The something movie.
iMovie.
No, not iMovie. Like the thing you were supposed
Final
to buy.
Cut Pro.
Final Cut Pro. Yes, yeah. And I remember I just like cut, move, cut, put together, add transition. And it would be like those messed up transitions. So editing. But once you get the hang of it, it's very easy.
It gets better, right? So even right now, I still get like a DM from like someone that studied sound engineering, and they're like, "Hey, dude, what the hell is this?" I'm like, "This is really
I'm trying
good.
my best, yo.
Like, this is really good." And they're just like, "No, there's an echo, there's noise in the room,
take
and
this.
you can do this, and you can do that." I'm like, "Cool, I can do that," but it's just like a process of keeping on trying to make things better and keep learning, right? So, that's pretty good. And then the next one is so that's the USB microphone, and then the next level is something like this, right? Which is like you've got a mixer, and or interface, you plugging in XLR microphones, which is like this. And there the range can be anything, right? So for example, so we have all these equipment. So we've had the microphone that you plug into your phone, and then we had the USB microphone. So what we're doing now is, because we're trying to build a network, right? So we have about 5 podcasts going, and each creator has a piece of kit, ideally, right? So some guys have a USB microphone because usually they just do the podcasts alone. So it's easy to sort of make it much more a good experience or whatever, because you can manage that. And then we have 2 sort of mobile kits, or 3 mobile studios, right? So the one is, should I say the microphone type? Okay. So CO13 Pro, which is a Samsung, literally just goes into an interface and...
By interface, what do you mean? Like a laptop?
That little box.
Oh, like a sound box.
Yeah,
it's like this little black
mixer.
box mixer
Mixer,
thing with like...
I think you guys can like link.
Yeah.
What do the
yeah.
YouTubers do? They
Link in
Or
my
if you have a blog, that details this, we can link it in the description.
Yeah. So as part of Lucha, we were super early into like podcasting and stuff. So the first thing we did was like build a roadmap for anyone that wanted to do it.
Oh yeah.
So we created a podcast guide, which is literally everything from learning how to edit, what microphones you should get, how to publish, how to get your podcast on Spotify versus Apple versus Google podcasts. So all of this is on sort of the Lucha website. So
Shots.
Lucha.
We'll link that.
Thank you.
link in our bio.
And so it's the CO13 Pro, goes into that interface. That interface plugs into a laptop, and you record from there, and then you edit again, learning how to edit and making sure that it's like super, super as good as it possibly can be.
Oh yeah.
But I think in South Africa, you can still get away with really bad sound.
Yeah.
Not really bad, but like okay sound.
Yeah, I
like
get
no
you.
one expects you to have a studio
yeah.
unless you have a studio, which is like right now is still at the level of like radio stations and say Cliff Central, platforms like that, where they have access to those resources, and then the quality of the audio can be higher. But most listeners aren't like sitting there going, how good is this?
Yeah.
Like most people just don't know how good audio is supposed to be. And as much as you can like want to get to that level, the most important thing is getting the content out there and making sure that it really, really resonates with people. And like the thing that I learned this year, and like you can go on Spotify, there's this podcast called Gimlet Academy for learning how to make a podcast. And obviously I only heard it this year, but because I've been doing it for so long, even though I've been doing it for so long, I still learned so much from it. So for example, they said you should only start a podcast if your podcast can move people, make people feel something new, or learn something new. So those are the real reasons.
Okay, ma'am.
And like it's those things that really matter. They don't talk about, okay, your audio needs to be the most perfect.
Yeah.
That's secondary to making sure that you're telling really great stories, you're making really great content, and people are like just happy to listen. They don't care whether or not you're in a studio or
Okay, so can you, on your site, is there a cost to everything that you just shared now? Not in terms of are you charging people, or do you detail the costs? Like if somebody were to want a podcast beginner's kit, you guys have that?
Currently no, but I've put this out on Twitter and stuff like that. So there's like that small microphone, for example. I actually am a partner in this DTC brand that's trying to bring creator tools into the market for anyone, right? So it's like a really pretty stand with the microphone and a light.
The red one.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah.
I've
Seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
So how much would that cost?
So that one cost about 2,200, and that's like with the stand and the microphone.
So all you would have to do
lights.
is plug it
You
into
literally just plug it into your phone
and laptop, or just phone.
Yeah. Phone. So
just
that
phone.
one's just the phone one.
Oh, okay,
right? So
cool, dope.
with that one, you can go on prostarter.co.za.
Oh, Pro Starter.
So this is for the kit,
okay,
Pro Starter. Cool. So that one is like 2.2. A microphone alone, you can get on Takealot, which is about 600 to 1,200, depending on the quality around there. And then when you get to like a USB microphone, for some reason, there's like been an insane spike in the price, and it's around 3,000 Rand. So 2,500 to 3,000 Rand. And then that sort of, this kit, so like with the interface and the cords and the stands and the microphone, that will cost around 5 to 10.
Way more, yeah.
So it gets a bit pricey when you start like really experimenting, but like, again, like it's super important that you make sure that you just want to start first. And then build up to getting like the best. Like the best microphone that all the podcasters use is called the Shure SM7B, right? So that's a microphone that costs 8,000 Rand.
No.
That costs more than the entire studio we have. And you need to get like, let's say you have to get 3.
Yeah.
You get 3 of those microphones and an interface. And now you're running into studio territory.
Shaking my head at that. Shaking my head at that.
Because first of all, this is not a studio, this is a whole ass apartment. And there's echoes left. And now you're buying this expensive. No. But I mean,
it's like
the phone kits, eh? Start with the phone kits. I think that's a good place to start.
And I mean, speaking of starting, what made you start with podcasting? I mean, what was that thing that made you start 4 years ago with your daily sort of entrepreneurial update podcast?
So I think 2015 or 2016, I was like an intern at this company that works with entrepreneurs. And my manager at the time was like, hey, dude, I was supposed to go to a Facebook event in Soweto. I can't go, but you need to go because like someone needs to be there. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. It's a free lunch. I'm just going to chill. And it turned out like the lunch was actually with like marketing execs at Facebook Global. Wow. And I happened to be sitting next to this person that was from the Dublin office. And she asked me a question that I couldn't answer. So she was like, what do you do in South Africa to document and tell the true stories of entrepreneurs and small businesses and startups in South Africa or across the continent? I was like, what do you mean by that? She's like, no, like, where do you get the nitty-gritties? Like, what are the things that people are really struggling with? What are they going through? What are their experiences? What are the inefficiencies in the ecosystem that make it hard for entrepreneurs to win? And I was like, yeah, we don't do that here, right? Mm-hmm. So when we put an entrepreneur on radio or on TV, it's a victory lap.
Yeah.
We're not gonna we're not gonna talk about
the hard stuff.
This person is at an interview and straight after the interview they need to get into a taxi to go to the office where they work, and then from there they're struggling to think about, okay, how am I gonna eat next week? Like that was the prevailing culture at the time, which is like when entrepreneurs went onto media, it wasn't about, hey, so what are the things that you're struggling with, or what are the challenges that you're facing? It was literally, hey, tell us your story. Want to hear more about how, and the narrative is always the same. It's like, oh no, I was born in a really difficult environment, and then I did this, and then now suddenly I'm a great success. And it's like, okay.
Nobody ever tells you like the steps. Like, there's no one that you could ever sit down with and be like, yo, okay, cool. You always talk about, I survived the worst of the worst to get to. What was the worst? I'm not saying like tell me your personal life stories, but like it's actually scary going into spaces and not knowing what the next steps are going to be or what the challenges you're going to face are. Yeah. Because then you're just in the dark, just swinging. Yeah. So I get that it's very important to document that process.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like, so she asked that question. I was like, we actually don't do that. We don't really talk about the process of building a business from scratch, like from zero to, success. What we do with media is like, okay, show us the victory lap. Everything else you need to go, cry it out on your own and whatever. And after I said, oh no, we don't really do that, and like this is the sort of ecosystem that we have. And she was like, okay, you should listen to this thing. It's called a podcast, and it's about this guy. His name is oh crap, I just forgot his name. I'll remember. But this guy, and it's called Startup, right? And I was like, what is a podcast? Because at the time...
Oh, you hadn't been listening to podcasts at the time?
No, like at that time, when I got an iPhone, the first thing you do is try and free up space. Yeah. And that was like one of the first apps that I delete, because it's like, what is this?
Purple app.
I opened it maybe once or twice, and I was like, why are people just talking on this thing? And at the time, it didn't make sense. And when you think about like how much podcasts mean to me now, that is such a wild thing to think. So she told me about this podcast. It's called Startup, and it's by Gimlet Media. I was like, okay, cool. And re-downloaded the app, listened to this guy, and basically this podcast is him documenting the journey of starting a podcast network or starting a business, right? And he went through, so the very first episode, literally in the first 10 minutes, he's basically pitching his business to a venture capitalist. He wants money to try and fund this thing. And in the first 10 minutes, I was like, I might do this for the rest of my life. Because like he literally like bombs. Like it's the worst pitch you'll ever hear. Like you sitting there listening and going, crap, please don't do it. Like, don't even keep going. And what ends up happening is like the venture capitalist pitches his business to him better than he pitched the business. And it's like, wait, what is going on? And I went through that first season in literally that first day. Literally went through the whole thing because I had never heard anyone showing themselves bleeding on a piece of content, and also like opening your heart out completely to show the real reality for entrepreneurs. And like, I'm not really great at pitching investors, and he documents trying to find a name for his business, and it's like terrible. Some of it is like the worst stuff, and you just like, this is the reality because I've lived this, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs who've lived this. The conversation he has with his wife, the day he says, I'm going to quit my job.
Oh, wow. That's so dope.
He records all of this.
What?
And there's like one of the most uncomfortable ones. He's talking to his now business partner. The first time they meet and they decide, okay, they're going to be partners, when they have to split the revenue. And you hear like both their perspectives when they're talking to their wives about, he wants to give me 30% is disrespectful. And the other guy's like, if I give him 50%, it feels like I didn't start this. And all these really deep things that happen in the reality of an entrepreneur. After that, I was like, this has to exist for South Africa somehow. And that's when I started with those like 3 different podcasts, just trying to understand the medium. Went deep into YouTube to learn about how to do it, all these different things, and just never stopped there. So it's like,
It's actually very interesting because I feel like a lot of the content that's created in South Africa is very difficult for me to consume because it hardly ever, this is going to sound very rude, but it hardly ever teaches, right? It's always like expositionary in terms of, you can tell it's contrived and the person is trying to show you a part of their life in the way that they think is best to consume. I don't know if that makes sense. As opposed to like showing you a part of their life in a way that you are going to learn valuable lessons from. And I often feel like I really feel bad, but I struggle so much with consuming South African content because very few of it is like what you've just described now. Like very few of it actually shows you a process and a person's experience of the process. A lot of it is just like people showing you what they think is best to show for consumable gain. And I guess I get it. Like the game is cold, we're hungry, we have different goals in life, we're trying to achieve different things, and we're trying to get the content that we put out there to do very different things for us. But I feel like what you've just shared about that now feels like something I would love to consume, but it's just there's so far and few.
So I think like you need people to so there's also like really bad podcasts out there. Like, especially internationally,
like
there's a lot of this like
Bitch, no.
But like I think the people that are really looking for like meaningful value often are willing to like deep dive to find it, right? So I look at you guys, for example, you guys teach a lot, right? And you share your experiences in ways that someone can go, oh wait, like I can like take that and I can try and apply it somewhere in my life, right? So I look at like, say you guys and like a few other ones where you're going, okay, this person understands that this is a very long game and there's something that they are rooted in that is far more important than just, okay, I want to get this many views on it. And I think that's the real thing that's killing like a lot of the creativity is people try and do that sort of valuable, meaningful, and like you want to make sure that you're adding value. And then, you don't get the numbers you think you're supposed to get because you watch someone else's and you're like, oh man, this got 100,000 views or whatever. Maybe I should do that. And it's like, wait, no. Like you can go counter.
Like, also, it took someone a certain amount of time to get to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, not everybody hits that lucky strike immediately. Like, and that's the thing that obviously not everyone is going to want to show the process to getting to there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just happen overnight.
No.
And also, I also really feel like what's 100 views to like impacting, let's say, 5 people's lives in a way that completely changes the way that they behave and affects other people in their lives. Like I feel like it's very valuable. That's more valuable to me than like any brand deal or whatever. Because I really think the world is too big. It's too much to chew on. But the little that we can do, we try. And I think creating a platform like Lucha then does that as well.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I feel the same way about sort of views and numbers. I rarely look at our numbers unless like if we have to like prepare a deck or whatever.
Yeah, if we have to prepare
I
some
literally don't know
document,
how much we're doing. One, because I think for me the most fulfilling things is like the tweets that people send through and the DMs and the comments and the emails where it's like, oh my God, this and this. Oh my God, I resonated with that. For me, that's currency, right? Like that for me means the world to me. And I think in a world where people do want these views look at how we're on Menzies channel. We're not doing not even half the numbers that Microwave Boys they did. Yeah. Not even like
but I think,
half.
So, Menzi is one of those people that was like, I see what could, he had everything he needed to do the bubblegum stuff, right? Like, he could have easily just made viral stuff, right? Yeah. But I look at something like, say, Broke Niggas. Yeah. Deep community, really high value content. Yeah. I was watching, so there's this one Broke Niggas episode where they put the camera in a fridge.
Yes, I remember that.
And they opened it and then had a bit of a conversation and closed it again. And then they did it again and I was like,
this is so way ahead of his time.
This is what the hell?
Yeah.
And you look at something like that and you go, this person understands long-term value. Yes. So I look at someone like you guys, like him, where you guys understand that community is going to be the ultimate currency, literally, right? Yeah. So it's not going to be just like, how many likes can you get, whatever. No, it's going to be like, how many lives can you impact? Because the way where brands are going, I feel, is like, it's not just going to be about you just measuring the high level, okay, how many people saw this? Yeah. You're going to start measuring how many people are affected, moved,
it's
or changed by this.
It's such a tough fight. Like, I just moved from agency to client side. And because I was a strategist, right? So I never saw the fights that like creative have for work. And I feel so sorry for creatives now because it's such a tough fight. It's like brands are still thinking about numbers as opposed to impact. Yeah. And I'm like, you are not playing the long game at all. You are continuing to shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah. It's such a tough fight, but I'm completely aligned with what you're saying. Yeah. I think I don't know what the human thing is, but like, there's that thing that's inside you that makes you want to do things that feel like are going to serve more than you. And it's really nice when you actually do something and it's received in that way. And I just, so my next question for you is literally like, outside of equipment and all of that, what would you say to someone who's like, yo, I want to start a podcast? What do you believe are like the top 3 or the top thing that they need to fully understand before they get into it, especially in the South African climate?
Yeah. So number 1, you're not gonna get the numbers, right? We are so early in the game, guys. Too early. Like, and I'm 5 years in, right? I'm 5 years in, and I understand that the game that everyone is playing right now is for adoption. Right? You are fighting to get someone from spending, say, I always say South Africans spend data the way they spend money. Like it's the same investment. If I'm going to spend an hour on your podcast, that means, say, 3 hours less on Instagram or 2 hours less on Twitter.
Yeah.
They are making trade-offs in their minds, right? And getting people just to listen to a podcast, that's the win. That's what people don't really get. So, for example, when we started the guide, it was specifically so that we could grow the market to grow adoption. It wasn't about, okay, guys, let's make this thing so we can like try and market it or something. No, it was literally, can we get more people to start podcasts? Because if one person starts a podcast and they say have 10 friends, they send it to those 10 friends. Those 10 friends have that emotional and psychological, you're my friend. I have to get this app and listen to this thing that you're trying to do. That's one person that's now converted into the medium, right? That's one person that's going, you know what, I'll listen to a podcast instead of watch a YouTube channel or spend more time on Instagram. That's the game we're playing right now, which is like, how many people can we get just to try a podcast? It's not a numbers game yet.
And that's what I wish brands and everyone would understand.
I'll say like it's improving. It's getting way better now, right? So, crap. You know what? Whatever. So I'll give you.
In the past.
I'll give you an example. When Cliff Central tries to sell ads to brands, do you know what they say? They say, this is how much social media following we have. They don't leverage the listens first.
Yeah.
The listens come after. It's like, you know what? We've built a decent community. Yeah. So the thing that we need to get to is like, okay, if you can build a solid community. So for example, you guys, you've built a really strong community of people that if you put out something, they trust and believe that you guys will make sure that it's worth listening to and they can get something out of that.
And if we don't, they're going to hound us. We know
there you
y'all.
go.
And they do.
We know
And you think about that, that's going to be the currency when, say, the adoption gets to the right point. Because if I go into the ecosystem now and I ask someone, hey, I've never listened to a podcast. What's a podcast I can listen to?
Yeah.
And someone tags, say 3 people tag you guys. What's the chances I'm going to click? I'm going to click because people are backing you and saying, no, these are the guys. So if we get to a level of adoption where people are wanting to listen to podcasts and you guys are already standing there with, say, 10, 20 episodes already up and someone gets introduced to you and there's already this amazing community and there's, video and there's this and there's that, you guys can leverage so much more, right? So the thing that, like, that's the top thing. It's like, there's no numbers yet. Don't worry about that.
Just do. Chop wood. Before enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood.
We're not, even now, where we are, 20-something, we're not eating money. We're doing this for free, guys. It is what it is.
Yeah. And, like, that's the first thing. But the second thing is that thing from the Gimlet Academy, right? Like, if you can't teach someone something new, make them feel something, or move them in some way, don't do it. Like, that should be the goal.
Wait until you know that one thing. And
exactly.
also, I think that's very important because there's so many things that you can try fake. Like, we once had a channel, was like lifestyle. It was fun to do, but I was like, I'm not a lifestyle-y person. Like, that's not what I'm passionate about. It's like, the things we discuss are things that I'm very passionate about, and it's very easy. We can literally rock up and be like, yo, what are we talking about today? Oh, great. Have bars for days. So I completely get you. And like, you don't always have to be passionate about things that you think are like the deepest things in the world. Like, if you are passionate about fashion, your passion will shine through and it will change people's lives and everything that you listed there. So I fully believe in that as well.
Yeah. And like the third thing, which is the last thing, build a community. Start a podcast to build a community, or start a YouTube channel to build a community, start a Twitch, whatever you're doing, build a community. Because where I think marketing is going, where everything is going, is everyone needs a good community to be, around something that they're passionate about. Whether it's a podcast about entrepreneurship, a podcast about mental health, whatever. The podcast is just one of the mediums in which the community engages. The next thing you need to do is build out something, say, like a Twitter profile, YouTube, whatever it is, where the community can come together, and then build out, say, for example, a WhatsApp group or a Discord group or a Slack group, where the community actually, engages meaningfully together, right? And then the next step is something like an event or something like that. So, I look at it as, okay, you start with content, and then it's you start with community as like the top thing. That's the top thing at everything is community. And then you leverage that for content, and then the commercials come, right? So for me, it's like, okay, how can I build a strong community here, create content for that community, or whichever one you sort of flip with, and then try and commercialize that as the last thing, right? So,
Dope. I think we've given people quite a lot to chew on.
I mean, if you guys want the nitty-gritty, you can just go to the
website,
the blog post. We will link it in the bio. I must just not forget.
But yeah, I think this was dope. It was our first time doing something different that wasn't like just talking about our emotions.
But it's also it's also just a very emotional thing, because
yes, it is.
It's something that, you know, sort of we came into from an emotional perspective, obviously, but also I think as we're growing bigger and we're trying to do a little bit more, you kind of
still want to be tied to that passion and that love and that emotion. I think I've been listening to a lot of Brene Brown and a lot of podcasts on like leadership and courage, and I think what you've done is actually very courageous
and vulnerable.
In terms of starting something and thinking about others in the doing of that. So I think, like, I just want to say that's really cool. And I think that was very courageous, considering the fact that you knew that there's absolutely no market for this, and you were willing to start it out, and it wasn't just for your own financial gain or to position yourself at the top. And I think it also came from such a profound question. And also there's something very important about being asked something and not just sticking to the I don't know, but wanting to do something about it and wanting to get the answer and actually become a part of the answer. So thank you so much.
I genuinely thought like you had listened to podcasts before.
No.
Because for me, in any case, I was like, I've been listening to podcasts since like 2013. And then only like
I started late. I probably started 2016 as well.
And then like only years later where I was like, oh, and even then I still wasn't thinking about it, and then Menzi brought it up and I was like, I guess we'll do it. I'm echoing what Sniper said, where, you know, it's really profound to start a platform like the one that you have from a place of like vulnerability. Like you just
I don't know what the fuck is going on. You're like,
sharing your
let me do this.
I think like what's the value of like learning something and not teaching it?
Literally.
Like
because you haven't actually learned unless you're able to teach. Like that's a big lesson that I've learned this year, that if you cannot replicate the lessons that others have imparted on you, then those lessons are wasted because they've died. Like you have been the end of it. So it needs to continue, and if you can just impact one more person, you've given the world a great gift. And that's something that I've really learned this year, and I've been holding on to, especially when it comes to kindness and just being more giving in the way that we lead our lives. And there are like resources are so limited that we don't have all the money in the world, we don't have all the time in the world, but this 1 hour or 30 minutes once in a while does something, and it makes me feel very good to be a part of that.
So tap into that, guys. Let's not hold on to the things that we know, because I mean, if you want to make money out of it, I can't stop you.
You might not even feel like we know them well, like, but you might just know 5 seconds more than another person in terms of a life experience, and that can change the course of their life when they have to interact with that thing that you spoke about. So I feel like this, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's like hustle.
Not so much
and very difficult
so putting yourself
to find
out
the
there,
time to actually sit and kind of map out the lessons and map out the hurdles, so that when the person that comes after you reaches one, they're able to jump without a problem, and they don't have to run into it. And that's what we're trying to do as well, especially for women, trying to make sure that, and younger women, because most of our audience is actually younger than us, trying to make sure that the time they meet certain things that we've spoken about, maybe our advice and our hindsight can help out.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This was a really great episode, very different to what we normally do, but I hope
you guys enjoy.
Yeah, I hope people learned a lot from it, and I
Yeah.
hope that those who want to start a podcast can actually get the strength to do it.
Yeah.
Please repeat the name of the website where they can buy the young pack for kids for 2K.
That's prostarter.co.za.
So prostarter.co.za.
We'll link that as well.
That's where you can get
Lucha
a
as
young
well.
podcast.
Mash Startup Podcast. What's the other one? The other podcast. You have two active
Oh,
ones.
Founder Source.
There we
Yes,
go.
yes.
So foundersource.com.
We'll
yeah.
link all of that. We'll put it on our Twitter, everywhere. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. You
Thanks,
guys are doing
guys.
amazing.
Thank you.
Remember to do all those things that
Yeah,
YouTubers
you
tell you to
like-
do.
yeah.